is Andrea Chisco.
Hi, my name is Sofia Garnica.
And my name is Nisi Rincon. In this video, we are going to talk about an event that completely changed the world history of Great Britain. But first, I'm going to tell you some facts about Great Britain, about British culture that you probably don't know. So let's get started. Facts about the British culture that you probably don't know. Number one, they love to apologize. British people think that say sorry whenever happen, it's polite. Number two, they are fussy about queuing. Queuing is literally their passion. Number three, talk about weather. It's a national sport there. Basically, so normal there. Four, British English and American English are so different. But the main difference is that British English keeps the spelling of words that it has absorbed from other languages, mainly French and German. Number five, curry is the national dish. Thanks to the immigration of people from Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh, curry is the national dish. Britain is an island separated from the European continent and has played a significant role in shaping its identity. Here are several key events that reinforce this isolation. Number one, Battle of Trafalgar in 1805. The naval victory against the Napoleonic forces reaffirmed British independence, demonstrating that Great Britain could protect itself and prosper independently. Expansion of the British Empire. This distanced Great Britain from Europe, fulfilling its global role as a colonial power. Number three, World Wars. Great Britain's participation in the World Wars, especially its solitary resistance during World War II, reinforced the notion of power, seeing itself as the protector of freedom and democracy in Europe. And the last one, British power. These events have fueled the idea of British power, the belief that Great Britain has a unique and distinct role in history separate from continental dynamics.
Euroscepticism in the United Kingdom is a political and social stance that citizens or opposes the country's incorporation into an European Union. This state has deep roots and has shaped by a combination of historical, political, economic, and cultural factors, such as historical factors like England's strong national identity and sense of independence have influenced by it as a resistance to fully integrating into a supranational project such as the European Union, influenced by its colonial historic and victory in the World War II. Now, the tourism is the rise of Euroscepticism, and it is increased within the Conservative Party, led by John Wood and William Hayes, arguing that European integration has against British interests. The UKIP, founded in 1993, gained popularity by campaigning for the UK to live in the European Union. British media, particularly tabloids like The Sun and the Daily Mail, play a crucial role in spreading Eurosceptical opinions. And uh, some factors shows migration crisis in Europe, expensive bureaucratic crisis, in Brussels and economic concerns fueled Euroscepticism, as seen in the 216th referendum on the UK's in the European Union membership. Now, the culture and patriotism, British nationality fosters Euroscepticism, which emphasizes independence and control, generating a narrative that sees the European Union as a threat or to a British independence. So, in short, the Eurocentral stance in England is due to a number of cultural, historical, political, and financial factors in change over time, moving from middle crisis, the European Union to a strong movement that led to a Brexit.
All these historical events had a huge role in shaping British culture and identity. It was something that eventually influenced the decision that some British citizens took in 2016 to leave the European Union. We have already talked about the sovereignty, Britain's isolation, and that commitment of independence. And one thing to bear in mind is that the internal religious conflict was a big deal for Britons back then because in making decisions. But the cultural aspects that played a more important role in Brexit in the first place were the economic and politics. Actually, Britain's government defines that the fundamental British values are democracy, the rule of law, individual liberty, and a mutual respect and tolerance for those who have different faiths. Yet the campaigns and parliaments and many borders had a problem with immigration, and some even included racist and xenophobic remarks, especially a popular political party called the Brexit Party. They wished for being a homogeneous country again, and many even end up bringing back how World War II profoundly impacted the national identity. Well, in 2016, the referendum shared that 51% of the voters were in favor of leaving the European Union. And this whole situation brought a lot of discomfort in the UK since half of the country disagreed. Also, something to highlight is the numbers of these referendums. Therefore, we can say that the history and culture influence important persons. Something, for example, is that the older generation of people who grew up in that environment seem to be more receptive, and they want to bring back the sovereignty to the UK, and they have a sort of nostalgia for the British Empire. Meanwhile, the younger generation and foreigners, they feel more connected to the outside world, and they didn't want to lose those benefits that the EU offers them, and they shared those fears for British economic damage and a future without respect for each other, which is against the fundamental British values that I mentioned before. Due to that, Brexit was a question that divided British politics and divided the reminders and liberal bodies, including family, friends, couples, and more. We can say that Britain went through an identity crisis in some way until the government came to a conclusion in 2021. The result was a decrease in Britain's productive. Politically, Brexit raised tensions within the Union because other countries mostly voted to stay. For example, Scotland is considering now a second independence vote, hoping they can gain independence for Britain and rejoin the European Union. Brexit also affected education since they lost many international college students, and British students, on the other hand, lost exchange programs. The health system in Britain is also facing financial difficulties since many of the doctors and nurses were from the EU. And on top of that, it seems that the people who supported discriminatory campaigns didn't know that Britain would still have immigrants. The only difference now is that there is a selective immigration for Europe, and this could lessen the issue in some way. However, in 2022, Britain got in the highest percentage of immigration due to the war in Ukraine. As you can see, many Liberals on board didn't consider the fact that being independent also has its own limits and struggles, and as we have pointed out, Britain's history and culture heavily affected the decision to Brexit, to the point that it was dragged into the UK for so many years, even though the result of the referendum came out in 2016. Thank you very much.